GM, welcome to Morning Markets. It is Tuesday, the 14th of October. So, Bitcoin, low time frame. What are we seeing after the liquidation aftermath? Well, the H4, 12 and 21 bands are still holding bearishly. So, that has now produced a down move. And when you go to the lower time frames, what I said to look out for was to see which way in this consolidation between the Q4 open and Sunday high breaks first. And we broke to the downside. So you got a lovely short in here, which is playing out. And you'd really be targeting the high time frame SR, but more likely it's going to be this liquidity that ends up getting hit for a pretty nice trade over here. And that's exactly as I detailed in my analysis updates for you guys. So yesterday, I showed you guys the intraday levels for Bitcoin. I said that we need to flip Sunday's high to get to the next H4 FEG. And the weekly open and Q4 open, they are key levels to hold on the downside, because below there, you risk bears taking control, invalidating the low time frame momentum. And well, that played out overnight. Q4 open tried to hold as support, but as we have seen, as soon as we lost that level, it leads to the down move where the next target really is 110 to 112, and you have that high time frame SR at 109.779. Also, same story for Ethereum losing the high time frame SR level. So that's played out pretty beautifully. Of course, I was asleep during this setup. Classic, playing out beautifully now, but GM to anyone who has taken this. And the target, if you are in that trade, as I said, is this liquidity over here. So that's where I expect price to go to now from here. And then from there, you've got to just reassess. Are we going to find some sort of bottom here and sweep before going back up? Or are we potentially even going to backtest the high time frame SR as resistance and head down to the range low at 107.2K? And then at the range low, this is really your last support level on Bitcoin. Because if we go to the daily chart, this is the low of the range. This has to hold because it's the equivalent of this level. Couldn't break above it, leads to a down move. Whereas if we could break above it, leads to an up move. And exact same vice versa on the downside, guys. Couldn't break below it on the liquidation. But if we now see price break below the range low level, well, that's going to be bearish, and that's going to lead to a momentum move down. So really what we're seeing from here is the path from trade of the week that I gave you guys is playing out. We've got the red path here. Couldn't get the green path with the squeeze. So now we're just looking to see, can we bounce from here and actually form some sort of sweep, or do we need to break below the high time frame SR, and from there looking for a high volume break to potentially scalp short towards that 107.2K level. And then from there you're looking, do we continue lower and break down from this range and confirm this distribution, or do we actually bounce, reclaim the high time frame support resistance, where we can then look for some longs and confirm this as a trap? So this was the exact trade of the week I laid out. Red path playing out beautifully. Again, guys, you enjoy this content, you like content from a real trader in the markets on YouTube, please hit that subscribe. Even if you aren't logged in on YouTube, make an account. And half of you aren't subbed. Let's boost this channel to where it should be. Because this path played out beautifully, and I mapped this out on Sunday night for you guys. So it's been some absolutely beautiful trading over here, especially if you're awake, unlike me. And what we are seeing on Bitcoin is we now have the new wave of smart money sellers coming in. Because smart money, they don't always sell the top. Sometimes they do get caught up in this big down move. But because they're holding spot, they don't get liquidated, they're not over leveraged. They don't sell on the Friday market crash. They know that price is likely to bounce, and you're going to get much better sells if you just have a bit of patience. So you would have seen smart money. They've been selling in this consolidation here above that Q4 open, and they are now what is causing this next leg down. We've got this new wave of selling. It's not like this over here where you have a sell-off into a liquidation and then you immediately reclaim with a green bullish candle. This is actually bullish price action. Instead, it's more like this where you get a big liquidation, cascade of a few days down. Smart money don't sell at the bottom here. Instead, they wait for the liquidations to get done and they sell on the bounce. And then you get the new wave of selling coming in. And then from there, as always, you're just looking for your reversal patterns. Here we got a double sweep of the lows, reclaim of the daily 12 and 21 bands, boom, trigger, get back long. And even if you wanted to wait for some market structure, you've got this level which got broken, and you can wait for more confirmation and boom, still get long for the rest of the reversal. Simple. But for now, that is very much not the case. Bands are red. We're breaking down and we need to hit these lows to see whether these lows are going to actually hold and form any trades, or if we're just going to continue lower and smart money actually need to start attacking some of these lower wicks. So watching the high time frame SR level, see if that holds or not on a sweep of this liquidity. If that breaks, then watching the range low level to see if that holds or not, or if we need to continue lower. Now, sure, there's a wick over here at 102K, but we've got levels in between there. So don't need to worry about that wick yet. Let's see how price reacts to these intermediary levels. Now, if we are lucky enough, which it doesn't look like we're going to get now, I think today, if you got any squeeze back into the H1 bands, that would potentially set up a nice short move in here, where you can have your risk defined at the highs and play the move down to this liquidity. But strictly speaking, that's only if this liquidity doesn't get hit now. It wouldn't be valid if it did something like the blue path. Probably unlikely to happen given that we're so close to liquidity now, but that's what I'd be looking for if we can get any sharp squeeze maybe on the New York Open, see if it gets sold into, and if this liquidity is still there, then I'd be looking for shorts to get on board for the rest of this move down. Now, of course, it's not all bearish, it's not all bad. If we can, as I said, find support here, potentially we can then squeeze up. And often what you see is people get too bearish at the lows right now, and you can actually go for this double squeeze here to where we have a second run up before going lower. Shorts get squeezed, smart money sell again then, generating a bunch of exit liquidity before selling back down. This is definitely still on the cards, as I said. Just watching these levels. Do we lose the high time SR and break down to the range low? Or can we actually bottom out there, forming a reversal patterns and muster up a rally? And then it's the same from the range low, looking at whether we can reclaim some levels or whether we actually just continue breaking down and confirm this as a high time frame distribution. We know that high time frame SR is key to hold, so going to be interesting to see how Bitcoin plays out through the levels, but it's broken down below Q4 open over here. Therefore, this isn't risk on, this isn't bullish Q4 until that gets reclaimed, and that's why I'd be looking at potential lower moves here until we see a sign of a bottom. And it's the same story on Ethereum, of course. Crypto assets are correlated, you guys know that. As soon as we saw the break of the high time frame SR for Ethereum, that was the key level over here. That triggered a nice short, but of course we know Ethereum was outperforming Bitcoin, so not the short of choice, but that's playing out and it's probably now likely to start filling in this gap over here. And that range low is at 3822. That's from the previous low over here where it's really your last level to hold as support on ETH to create some sort of double bottom around that level. I think if we lose it, then you're going for a breakdown lower to retest some of the wicks, which is perfectly normal. As I mentioned in my weekly outlook video, make sure you watch it if you haven't already. I go through my portfolio, how I played this cycle with my portfolio, my plan going forward with my portfolio, as well as a high time frame market overview. That's this video over here. Got to watch this one if you haven't already. I'll pin it in the comments, because when it comes to these altcoins, retesting the wicks are very common. That's what I mentioned. So key to watch this range low level to see how price plays around it. Go to the 4-hour chart. You've got this impulse candle here, high volume, high impulse candle. I'd say we're looking to fill this gap in at the minimum, and that gap goes to 3866. And if we break the gap, then range low is the last real level to hold there. So had a little bit of outperformance on ETH. That was completely expected because Bitcoin dominance had a big rally and then mean reversion. So you saw some altcoin outperformance, but it's generally staying above this September high over here. So interesting to see how Bitcoin dominance plays out. As you guys know, when the market goes down, this chart tends to go up because Bitcoin has lower downside volatility. So that's what I'll be watching. You want to see this chart goes up because that gives a healthy reset in the market. And when we look at the leverage situation, talking about the health of the market here, this further confirms that we're seeing that second wave of spot selling here because you've got the green CVD market orders on the spot side. They are selling into this move. Funding is going negative, so spot is at a discount to perps, which is not what you typically see. That means spot is selling heavily. And of course, spot are typically your longer term, smarter money rather than your leverage. And also what's worrying is you've got this big buildup of open interest. Price down 0.87%. Open interest is up 6%. So wow, I think we can see some real big volatility today. The key level is going to be right over here. It's going to be this liquidity where all the long stops are going to be, at least the majority of them, for anyone managing risk somewhat correctly. It's going to be at that 109.4. So you've got to watch this level very carefully now. If we can sweep it, and as I said, form a bottom, then shorts are under pressure within this open interest, and we can actually have a squeeze all the way up to the highs due to how much build-up of position there is. But what's more likely is this is actually going to lead to a breakdown because longs are not closing. And if we get below that high time frame SR, this liquidity there, I think that can lead to a further flush today, and we get some real spot selling. And maybe we then retest what is the Coinbase wick, so that comes to around 106. I know this is Bybit perps, but I know on TradingView Bybit perps actually went down to 101, so this is not accurate here. And then you're just looking there, how can price react if we do have to start flushing down? So interesting, big build up. I'd expect some volatility today due to that build up, and that can catalyze either a big squeeze up, or if we lose the high time frame SR, a big squeeze down to the range low. So yeah, keep an eye on your levels. Shorts are playing out, spot sellers are here. When we look at gold, it's just making new all-time high after new all-time high. As I said, the 12-hour bands produce beautiful support that I mentioned in my video. GM to anyone who got long following the trend on gold. As I mentioned, this produces new highs, and that's exactly what's followed suit here. So gold keeps mooning. Bitcoin, of course, is not a beneficiary of that because that weakens the case of Bitcoin getting flows over gold, which we know Bitcoin needs in order to have its outperformance runs. And you're seeing, what did I mention in every monthly outlook and weekly outlook is watch for the break of this chart over here, the September low and September high, Bitcoin against gold. We're now breaking down back to the tariff lows. So Bitcoin is seriously underperforming gold, which is not a good sign to see, and further confirms my bias for being risk off, being in 100% cash since August at 121k. So yeah, this is not what you want to see at all. Now looking to see if we can have a reaction at this low over here. That maybe is the place where we can see a potential bottom form, but until then, it's a falling knife. You expect it to go lower. Bitcoin is expected to underperform, and it's probably a similar story when we look at stocks quickly. Stocks, they are having some sort of sell-off, but nothing as large as Bitcoin and crypto is, and perhaps Bitcoin's forward-looking of the liquidity situation. But what have we seen since yesterday's video? Well, found resistance at this impulse candle gap that I mentioned in the video. Couldn't trade through it, so couldn't get this path. Now we're starting to fill in the CME gap, so I'd expect that to fill, and it's going to be very interesting if we do make it to new lows. Are we going to continue down? in the red example, or are we going to actually sweep the liquidity and then produce some sort of double bottom over here when it comes to your stock market? So that's what I'll be interested in. Looks like there is some weakness here, and of course, bullish path. If we can hold the gap, then we can look for a potential move higher. And you're really looking, can we fill this, or do we reject there? Otherwise, looking for a breakdown to see, can we form a bottom, or do we continue lower? And similar picture when you look at Bitcoin against stocks, against the Nasdaq, no doubt. Are we seeing weakness? Yes, we are. Bitcoin is coming to its September low against the Nasdaq, so it's weak. We know when this chart is bullish, it produces all the biggest Bitcoin rallies. But right now, we are breaking down. So yeah, that's the current market we're in. You've just got to accept it for what it is. When you look at the wider market, you've got Bitcoin, ETH now below its high time frame support resistance. Total 3 now below its high time frame support resistance. Others was below it before and now continues lower. Bitcoin's the only thing above it. So Bitcoin's the only strength in crypto right now. Altcoins are retesting their wicks as expected. They're below the level they need to be above to be bullish. So expecting further risk off moves today. So manage risk. Make sure you watch the weekly outlook for a high time frame view. I'll see you guys in the next one.